it actually mean if something is alive or biotic? You might remember we had discussions of things earlier in science, maybe last year, and we talked about things being biotic, mean living, or abiotic, which was not living at all. Remember, our abiotic factors were things like temperature and air and light and water, okay? Things that were not alive ever or ever had been. So if something was alive, we're really looking for something to be biotic, and we're starting to look at biology. So, which is again the study of living things, right? So we just watched an amazing video to make you start thinking about what makes things alive. So let's come together and put together what we might think are the characteristics of life. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to ask you what makes something alive. And we'll put together a list together about what we think makes up something or qualifies it for being alive, like biotic as opposed to abiotic. Okay, if we didn't have a chance to get together to this or you're reviewing this lesson, here are some things that we probably should have talked about. We should have talked about the ability to respond to their surroundings. If we talked about the ability to respond to surroundings, let me give you a really good example. If you close your eyes, it gets really dark, right? And then when you open your eyes, you can feel your eyes kind of adjusting, right? It's actually pretty cool. Your body responds to its surroundings. If you get too hot, you might shiver. I'm sorry, if you get too hot, you might sweat. If you get too cold, you might shiver, right? You might dim a light or brighten a light, and your eyes will respond to your surroundings, okay? So the other thing that living things do is they are able to reproduce. They can reproduce. So that means that they can make other littles, right? So that means that starfish can make starfish, trees can make trees, but not just like any trees, like maple trees can make more maple trees, right? Humans can make more humans, rabbits can make more rats. They reproduce so that they can make more of their species. Something else living things need is they need to be able to grow and develop. Now, of course, grow means to basically get bigger, but develop means to be more complex. So, like as a baby can only have so many brain cells and has so many muscles, it can develop more muscles and become a toddler. And then it can develop more memories and more synapses in the brain and have more experience. It might become more complicated in that the eyes become more developed, the muscles become more developed, the heart becomes more developed. So not only does it get bigger, it develops, right? So that it can reproduce and it can respond to its surroundings. Something else that's really important for all life is that all living things actually use energy. We get energy from food, plants get energy from sunlight, but living things use energy, not just to move, but also to continue with life functions like breathing and reproducing and repairing cells, okay? All living things have something called complex chemistry. And complex chemistry means they're made up of more than one chemical, okay? And some of the important chemicals of life are carbohydrates and fats and waters and oils and lipids. And if you break everything down and put it together, you eventually have certain substances and nutrients that provide for certain portions of energy, right? And so we need the chemicals to be able to use energy, and we need the chemicals to pass the energy along, right? To be able to grow and develop, to be able to reproduce, and to respond to our surroundings. But one of the most important things that scientists have decided to categorize, boy, I can't really talk today, can I? Okay, one of the most important things that scientists have decided that qualifies something as biotic or living is cells. If something is alive, it was made of cells. And there are two types of living things from cells. You can get unicellular and multicellular organisms. And their unicellular are super, super, super small, one cell. And multicellular have all kinds of different cells that are specialized to do things. Like your organ cells are different than your skin cells, that are different from plant cells, that are different from the cells that make up your muscles, that are different from the cells that make up your hair. Okay, that's complex. And so when scientists decided to look at life, they needed to really take a closer look. And so what they did was they started making instruments, not torture instruments, instruments to look at things more closely. And one of the things they discovered was they could use lenses to build microscopes. And from there, they developed the cell theory, which is what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the cell theory. We're going to look at some scientists that developed it. We're going to look at how do we know what we know now? How do we support it? How have microscopes been very helpful? And what are the different kinds of cells? What's the difference between unicellular and multicellular organisms? You have two notebook pages today, notebook page 65 and notebook page 66. And your learning target is, I understand the invention of the microscope influenced the cell theory. And your second one is, I can explain that all living things are made of cells. Today, you're going to investigate things that are tiny and look up close and really consider what it means to be alive. All right, how you doing it? You doing good? You living the dream? You're alive. That means you're living the dream. Have a good day.